Until the end of this video, I'll tell you how he went from sweeping streets to becoming Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo, someone who was supposed to die because his mother wanted to abort him and not let him be born, but his mother's doctor didn't let that happen. Maria Dolores, a maid with 3 children, suffered from financial poverty. One day she found out she was pregnant, but she wasn't happy about it at all and wanted to abort the baby because she didn't have enough money to keep the child alive. Many exercises, many medications, but the baby completely resisted until she went to the doctor for an abortion, but was met with strong opposition from the doctor. On February 5th, 1985, a perfect boy was born, Cristiano Ronaldo. He faced his family's poverty, but he didn't give up and swept the streets so he could play football. He was filled with great passion, but one day he faced his father's addiction, yet he still resisted and continued. He first played in his childhood in his hometown of Madeira, Portugal, for the local team Andorinha. He was only 7 years old at the time. Around the age of 11, he joined Nacional, but when he was 10, his talent had attracted so much attention that the city's big club decided to sign him. But the story was more important than a regular transfer. Because Ronaldo's father at that time owed money to Nacional Club, after a few months of talks, the club agreed that if Cristiano joined their team, they would forgive his father's debt. Thus, Ronaldo's transfer was part of a family deal, but this was not a problem for Ronaldo. At Nacional, Cristiano grew much faster than his peers and shone in the youth team. But after about 2 years in one of the matches, Sporting Lisbon scouts noticed his extraordinary play. They asked Nacional's coach to send Ronaldo to Lisbon for a trial. He shone in all the tests in such a way that Sporting immediately accepted him and asked his family to allow him to live in the academy. Cristiano went to Lisbon at the age of 12, and from there his professional path began. But this was just the beginning of an adventure, the beginning of a great challenge. When Cristiano was only 12 years old after that successful trial in Madeira, he went to Lisbon to join the Sporting Academy. At that time, life was full of challenges and hardships for him. He was far from his family and island, living in the club's dormitory. His Madeiran accent was different from others, and some of his teammates mocked him, but his hard work and strange seriousness distinguished him from others. He trained hours more than others. Even after official matches, he trained himself with weights and a ball. But later, one of his coaches said in an interview that he was the first to arrive and the last to leave, and even then it was clear that he was a special player. But these problems alone were not enough. In 2000, when he was only 15, he suffered from a heart problem, but even this could not stop him. After the operation, he returned to training after only a few days. His mother, Maria, says, "We thought he wouldn't be able to play football anymore, but just a few days after the operation, he said, 'I want to go back to the field.'" But he tried hard until he finally achieved his dream in 2003. When Sporting had a friendly match with Manchester United to inaugurate their new stadium, in that match, a young boy in Sporting's number 28 shirt repeatedly left United defenders like John O'Shea and Michael Silvestre behind. But this was just the beginning of the story, because after the game, Manchester players told Ferguson in the locker room, "Sir, we must buy that boy right now." Ferguson did just that. Just a few days later, Manchester negotiated with Sporting and bought Ronaldo for about 12 million euros. But this amount was an unusual record for an 18-year-old player. In 2003, young Cristiano officially joined United and was given the famous number 7, which previously belonged to Beckham and Cantona, something he himself said about. "For me, it was a great responsibility, not just a number." From there, the story of becoming one of the greatest players in history began. But this is not the whole story, because young Ronaldo was deeply affected by the grief of losing his father. And perhaps you think that his father was an addict and didn't matter to Ronaldo. But you are wrong, because he says something else about his relationship with his father. Now, you might think that all this wealth cannot be achieved just by playing football. You're right. It's because he has many sources of income. But let's first talk about his biggest income: his football contracts. His annual base salary in his contract with Al Nassr is reported to be around $468 million. Additionally, it is said that he has received a 15% ownership stake in Al Nassr Club. In short, his current contract, including bonuses and benefits, is reported to be one of the biggest contracts in sports history. But these alone haven't built this wealth. Ronaldo has the CR7 brand, which is a good source of income. He even has his own hotels. He is the most followed person in history. Now, you might wonder what this has to do with income, but you should know that he gets several $1,000,000 for each advertisement. He even has several hair transplant clinics under his own brand, from which he earns a lot. He is even a brand ambassador for Nike and receives tens of millions of euros for it. But these alone are not enough because his face is on the 7-cent Portuguese coin, and his fans are crazy about that coin. Because of this, he also earns a lot from it. These have built that kingdom for him. To find out how Lionel Messi, a thin and weak child, became such a great player, watch this video.